Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Islands of Insight. So, we didn't quite finish the last enclave last time, which was Vaulted Heights. We got stuck in a tree and got teleported back here, and I just don't think it's really worth it to make this separate journey to go and do 4 more puzzles or look for 4 more logic grid puzzles. We should keep it varied. I was able to go a little long and do a trial, so let's go and do this. This will be shifting mosaics, very possibly the last puzzle in the entire game. Which, okay, if shifting mosaics is the last puzzle type in the game, then we'll end up seeing probably very few of that. Boy, is this wall just end. So, yeah. The original goals here were pretty low compared to Vaulted Heights. There was like 130 puzzles in Vaulted Heights, and with the original goal just being less than 12 puzzles, I mean, that's nothing. Elo AI, the scholar, says leaving the fracture open could be immoral, yet closing it could also be immoral. The Oriole says, Elo AI, your mind will never be at rest until you find the answer. I too share this compulsion. I am not confident we can make a decision of such magnitude without verifying the truth of it ourselves. The cost of being wrong may be too great. I wish I could ease your mind, but this moral question goes beyond logic. If we are to make this decision with any certainty, we must know the unknown. So it sounds like somebody's going to go through the fracture. I almost wonder if the fracture here was fixed in the past by adding this here, this nebula. And that created a balance of some sort. I'm still not sure if those are conversations that are happening now, and you can just get the conversation lore bits at any order, which is not typically what I would describe the phrase lore as, or if they are just audio recordings that happened. Okay. So this looks different, although it's not too different from some of the other things we've seen. I'm not sure how we're supposed to interact with this at all. It seems like it is a slide puzzle, so taking a little bit of the programming you would have had. Okay, so I don't know what we're doing here. Yeah. If anything, I suspect that these are the last thing they worked on before they shipped the game. Which, yeah, that would scream a real imbalance as far as just different types of puzzles. There's nothing special about those puzzles that would make them considerably more difficult, or even more difficult to make, at least as from my observation, my armchair assumptions here. I wouldn't be surprised if you could pre-purchase even puzzles and puzzle mechanics like this on the Unreal Engine, Unreal Asset Store. So I assume also this logic grid is going to tell me some things. We have to connect all dark cells, which means one of these two is dark. And then darts tells me something. Honestly, probably just do this and fill it in until we kind of know everything. Just play with it. This will be potentially more work, although not in that case. Size may not make anywhere as big of a difference as just a more nebulous complexity towards solving those puzzles. Crouching down puts you too low. Just found a hidden gate. There aren't even any hidden gates listed as a part of these puzzles. That does open up a realm of possibility that there may just be a lot more going on here. Yeah, it seems to me like this may be one that starts easy and just gets really hard. Okay, we need to find a way to, like, shoot through that, downward, through that. Or upward through that. It may also just be that vaulted heights was very difficult. Although, in some of the other enclaves, we've also had other islands that were either close enough to fly to, I believe that is vaulted heights, or were directly connected to it. Okay, what is the move here? Guess it's that. A lot of times you see these kinds of puzzles as parking mini games. I wouldn't be 100% surprised if I had solved those kinds of puzzles already, like a significant portion of those types of puzzles, of those exact orientations of those exact puzzles. I don't think that's gonna work. A lot of these puzzles I could have potentially solved before. It is believable. was the one I'm missing. Wow, that was a small opening. This may just be a small enclave. And certainly that would be crazy if the last 4 enclaves, I did 2 of them in this episode and 2 of them in the next episode. It's kind of difficult to make something like this even that big of a deal. Although, in fairness, I'll say if you've never done that puzzle, if this is your first encounter of it, then yeah, that would probably be difficult. Which that is an interesting question, certainly. This is the kind of game that's going to fall under a high level of family friendliness. Although the MMO aspect on that does raise some questions. Interesting, you have a broken bridge. But yeah, at least playing in solo player mode doesn't really bring about any real concerns in my mind. You may very well have done this wrong. Nope, managed fine. And the sound effect when you solve those is fairly lackluster. But yeah, if you were going to think of this as a kid's game, I have to ask some questions there. Almost certainly I would think flying in this direction is going to reveal some kind of mystery. Because these puzzles definitely aren't super simple. This is the kind of thing I'd give to a 14-year-old or maybe a 16-year-old, not the kind of group of puzzles I would give to an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old. While it wouldn't be a real problem if they tried to solve them, they would just get really frustrated, and that's not going to be your goal in the long run. Set that back that way. Didn't do that. Ooh. While we're here, let's see if there's possibly we have enough points to spend on something. So we should spend it if we can. Yeah. I may very well get this bonus and have very little use for it. Dual Luminous Quest may not be that useful. I've been skipping over this. Really, at this point, I'd probably just want to save up 8,000 points. And yeah. We do now know that that is the last of the puzzle types. So expect nothing new in the game. Just figuring out that you could put the blue ones there is something that I imagine some players would have not really figured out. Okay. So we need do something different. Maybe that. Yep. But yeah, I'm not getting any bonus for solving these quickly. At least it doesn't feel like I'm getting any bonus for solving them quickly. of sneaky, and this one's going to be a little bit more difficult. Want that there. So we want that there, we want that there. And yeah, like I said before, this is going to be a level of complexity. It's not going to be a level of just how many pieces or how many sizes exist. It's going to be all about complexity. Weird, I'm not seeing a solution here. Probably something like this. That was the guess. That you need to maybe maneuver a couple of them out of the way. In that direction. Yeah. That's the trick. So that was a little bit more difficult. But yeah, we've already unlocked the bonuses. And we already kind of knew what's going to go on here. Pretty obviously, we need to remove this from that spot so that things can happen. Put that in that spot. Now, I thought there might be a lot more that had to be done there. That fell into place pretty easily. This. It's not gonna help anything. Locking these other pieces into place doesn't seem like it's really playing a role. Right. We need no blacks or whites this time. That made that pretty easily. Where's the play here? Because you kind of need two spots to move things. So if I could get this to that point and then do all of that, that works. So to get that to that point, I just need to move that here, do that, move that here, do that, and then move all of that down. Well, what's the deal with the big bright lights? Why is that so much incredibly brighter? This wall inherently locks us into certain things. And the rest of this is just connected. So there would be no real reason to move that. Let's right click just to make sure we aren't able to rotate things. Okay. Well, I would have sworn that that was the solution at that point. Just hit that and then do that. That was a little tricky. And so we're going to have more of this going on. So we're making a path for it to travel into. Which, yeah, if I hadn't figured that out, I would have. That might have been a challenge. But then you run into things like this, where it's. There's actually been considerably few of these that actually rotate. They probably figured out in playtesting pretty early that the rotating is just inconsistent, and that level of inconsistency is just never going to be welcome. Is there any way this would ever squeeze around that? It needs to, like that. But with this one, never squeeze around like that, no. If it did, you can't do anything with it anyways. Go that far, you go that far. And that's the solution. I thought that was going to be more difficult. Apparently there are 29 actual shifting mosaics. Not anticipating them to be very challenging. We're getting a decent amount of variety here. Let's see. Black or white? This would have to be black, this would have to be white. This would have to be black, and this would have to be white. This is almost the exact same puzzle with one important distinction. Okay. Can't move it around. So that wasn't a solution. That's not the solution. That's not the solution. That's not the solution either. Although it feels like that's not too far from what the solution should be. Let's put everything back there. Move that there. That's not good enough. Let's just restart. I was way up there. I would have been in a better position than where I was. Okay. So I don't see how you don't end up just doing that. I don't see how that doesn't lead to doing that. Maybe that then would help you a little bit. But what would the next step be? Well, that was a long way to end up in the exact same spot. That doesn't get me anywhere. This does get me somewhere. I don't know what to do at end, however. Kind of going around in circles. I need, I guess, this piece on the other side. So let's cycle things like that Do that. Do that. And that. This direction. And that. This direction. Got it. That took longer than I would have liked. But we're hardly struggling with this. Okay. The only free space would be to move something up like that first. Do something like that. And then easy peasy. This. Can put this down here. I don't know if that is going to benefit much doing that. We could squeeze everything in pretty tightly in that order. If I could just get this block out of the way. Was that basically where we started? Yes, it was. So clearly, that's not the step. The move has to be to get this part in here, and this part somewhere else. Something like that doesn't fit. So if we were to do something like that, it wasn't as smooth as I thought it would have to be, actually. There's definitely a repeated theme in this enclave like the previous enclave, in that we are just working our way around. Okay, so that one is trapped. There's no way these can ever move. So we have to maneuver the pieces in such a way to make a path all the way around. I imagine very much so. Just getting rid of things out of the way is almost certainly the right move. All the way up here. And that should make actually a lot of free room. Didn't even see that there was one there. Where's the next puzzle? They kind of need these puzzles to be here. So we gotta move everything one to the left. which that can only happen if this can go this way, and that can go that way. I think the move here is to probably do that. Nope. Not quite that, but not too far from it either. Perhaps a slightly different puzzle there in that you moved a lot of blue ones. Some of these archways are stupid in their placement. Okay. So this can go here. This can crawl up here. This can go that direction. And then that can crawl down that direction. And that can go there. Those are severely limited in the directions they could actually travel. Interesting. So there's one more leitmotif. There's 8 more mosaics, shifting mosaics, and the invitation certainly is to jump. Just kind of ends there. Oh, this is the direction. There very possibly are more than one more leitmotifs. Yeah, there's 6 more leitmotifs. But yeah, I honestly don't expect this to... The question here is what can move and what can't move, because these are limited in the direction they can go. So this going up here lets me shift that to unlock that, to then do that. So then we are moving this back so we can move it up and out of the way. And I am glad this is not counting steps, because that would be a pointless extra challenge. The whole running around though and touching orbs and having Grandmaster trials around those definitely seems crazy. That still just kind of ends there. You had this whole little path, and I guess you're supposed to walk through this door. And seeing doors is definitely not something that would be your forte in this game, considering you know all of those have to be black. And Inherently, what else do we know? It has to touch 6. So if that was black, then the rest of these would be white. And then this would have to touch that, and this would have to touch that. It would have to be white. That. Is there anything more on the corner here? I noticed there's some lighting issues, certainly in this game, that maybe those are secrets or maybe they aren't, but it is noticeable. Sometimes you just see some things that feel like they're a little bit brighter than they should be. So I guess we're going into the temple next. Let's see. Thinking maybe you were supposed to look through the legs of these elephant statues. That doesn't seem to be the case. So how are you supposed to see anything? Unless you're supposed to look from a completely different island. This game would be crazy if it introduced like reflections or something. We have to connect all dark cells, which would mean that has to be dark, which means something. Maybe not too much. Let's jump up here and see if there's anything to see. Yeah, I don't imagine that there is a way you can be looking through the temple door from up here. So it's gotta be a wall thing. Apparently this is correct. I'm supposed to look through this little window. And I'm supposed to be saying something that would line up in part with this. But there's nothing there. And this is not a world that changes. Arguably, that's one of the things I very much liked about Myst, is that it was a world that became solved and changed and would have just this dynamic evolution of its whole layout. And the entire Myst series of games are like that. Yep. Something over here. Through this window. Ah, you had to look through it. Through this window. And notice that that was being very generous with that. Which I'd expect that much for such a tiny area. So it's most of the lore here has boiled down to Eloi the Scholar and the Oriole. We have long since stopped seeing the first talk, or the Forgotten. It's questionable if there's going to be any big twist here, but I wouldn't be surprised if the different names we're getting here are just reincarnations of the same personality getting reset. AI, computer programs possibly evolving, getting reset. I guess it's also worth pointing out that Elohim was the name of the god AI in the Talos Principle. So the name is a little close. This game definitely feels heavily influenced by half the Talos Principle, half the Witness. Now honestly, if people made more of these games, it would be overwhelming. If there was a new one every year, particularly if they were going to be an MMO and give you 10,000 puzzles, or claim to have 10,000 puzzles, it's just way too much. Anyways, he says, is it possible to visit the unknown realm, observe whether the fracture has any effect on it? Not yet, says the Oriole. The energy from the unknown realm flows only one way, and the river rages too strongly to swim against its currents. So there's maybe two realms here, in that there's perhaps an unknown realm and a fracture. That is believable. Let's walk around and see if we find anything on the outer sides of all of this. I guess that was everything that's over there. It would be very interesting if halfway through a game like this, teleportation was unlocked in these kinds of arches, and every time you found them, it would just teleport you to a completely different location. And that is interesting, to say the least. It would be intriguing, certainly, if all of a sudden if you were just never certain of where you were, and it was just a game that didn't really care to have you know where you were. There's no way this pattern is ever going to fit down on this pattern. So, what we're looking to do, I think, is to gain room. That's one. But we couldn't do that until we had just one over here. I don't think we can do this. Well, wait a minute, maybe we can. Well, weirdly, what I've accomplished here, I think will solve the puzzle, but I'm not sure this was the right way to solve it. When I click space exit here, am I going to return to where I was? I guess I am. And that is a perfect example of where these puzzles really should just be clickable from any distance. All of them. I don't know why the logic cube puzzles say get closer. Like, because that just adds a whole twist to it. Here, like, let's just get... Yeah, why does that say get closer when I could... Let's see, that says get closer. That says get closer. That much I can do, but that says get closer. Like, why have that separation? Okay, white. And then probably black and white and black. Nope, we've got to connect all the blacks. So let's just make some general assumptions here. It's very much a case where you only really have to understand a percentage of what you're doing to get to the next step. If you can figure out the next step, you'll probably run into a situation where by the time you get to the next step, you have a good chance of figuring out the step after the next step. I think we are very possibly going the exact opposite direction you would think you would have gone to solve this one. There is kind of a clockwise standard for a lot of these puzzles that most of them do feel like they're solved by moving clockwise. Don't think there's anything else here. It's an observation puzzle here. The angle they want me to observe it from. I can't really observe anything with the blinding light, so I'm gonna assume you're supposed to observe it down this way. Maybe you observe it from up here. Not yet. I'll just do a high jump to get to the very top of this. See, if this was the top of one very big temple to outshine all the other temples in the game, I'd be much happier with that experience. But I know it's not the case. I know that this is just the same old pre-made asset of temples. Or at least it's assembled using the Lego building block style of assembling things from pre-made assets. See anything from that direction? Well, so what's in this temple? A giant, way too big puzzle. Kind of feels like it's potentially unsolvable. The real question to worry about here is how much upkeep am I going to have to do around all this? Probably not as much as I think I am. I suspect we will end up not having to do much of anything. But in an abundance of caution, I will pack that in very tightly. This one can't move. Which almost makes it so that one can't move. It all feels like tumblers on a lock. So I didn't really have to be that careful with it. And that may very well be the entirety of those types of puzzles, as far as shifting mosaics, although I probably wouldn't say you have just awakened shifting mosaics if that really was the case. So we still have bonus stuff to do in this area. No reason not to do it. I already solved that one because that was the one we reached through the window and solved. Yep. That's all the rings. There's more light motifs. A lot more clicking there than I would like. Okay. So the trick here, I think it's probably going to be just compacting things in a nice fashion. And deciding what needs to be compacted and where. Notice you don't have a single one piece here, so I would suspect everything as a place, which means that couldn't be there. Probably shouldn't be there. That could be there. That can't be there either. Might be trying more, doing more effort than I really need to. It may just be that it all can just line up. Now, what we have remaining here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots. So everything here does have to lock in. There's not room for even a single out of place one. So inherently this has to be here, and this is almost closer to doing a jigsaw puzzle. Then I put a piece here. None of these can rotate. And I can't get any pieces behind there. So then that probably means something like that has to happen. Which means this is out of place. That's out of place. That's out of place. Which I think means this has to be the location. But we don't have a 2 positive up like that. So then you would replace this with that to get to that spot, and that with that to get to that spot. And then you do that and that. It bounced. Interesting. I moved it so fast it just bounced. I wouldn't have expected that to happen. Again, this is going to be about just compacting everything, I imagine. And I have exactly the right amount of space and not an extra to spare. If that is true, however. I'm gonna have to get creative with this, particularly this top spot. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I was correct in my assumption there. Okay. And there. No bounce that time. And this was just a doorway you could have walked through. It is kind of surprising that there aren't any. This is a puzzle. I almost skipped it, thinking it had already been solved. Yeah, it's a little surprising that there isn't doors in this game. No keys, really, other than collecting certain mirror blisters. Let's see. There's one more logic grid. Maybe that is also an influence on this wanting to be an MMO. Although I'm saying MMO, it may very well not technically qualify as an MMO and may simply qualify as an online multiplayer game. But not sure. I think MMO probably is the right term in this case, because I don't think the idea is that you were supposed to only hook up with your friends and play online. Okay. So that's the angle. You have to step up on this platform, I guess. I guess maybe you have to jump up on that. It's a little bit more difficult than it seems. That's how your foot kind of is just kicking off of it. Hidden archways, light motifs, and one logic puzzle. Probably not hidden particularly hard. Don't make the grid patterns. What's funny is this is the exact same puzzle we just saw. Interesting. Okay. This has to be white, that has to be white. That would mean that has to be black, and that has to be black. Anyways. That means that has to be black, because it has to connect to that. This has to be black, and that has to be black, and then that has to be white. All around there. Which also means that has to be black. You can make white squares. Just can't make black ones. Let's see. that is true. So is there a reason why that puzzle was just similar to this puzzle that was on this wall here? Or is it just an example of how at some point they were thinking about converting half of the logic grid puzzles into sliding puzzles? Which, in fairness, had they actually done that, probably would have worked fairly well. Okay, so flying around is not going to get me in archways. We can pretty much guess that they aren't going to be in high gliding regions. Flying around is also not going to give me the light motifs. Problem with all of this though is there have been several islands here, and so I'm going to have to fairly quickly decide whether or not I think the remainder of the puzzles are on this island or happen to be on the previous islands. You get some flickering as that tree renders. Okay. Is it possible that there was another pattern? I would have to assume a lot of the outcroppings here, instead of just having sheer drop-offs, are intentional to catch yourself from falling. And so, assuming that's intentional, that's good game design in my book. Really doesn't benefit the player any to suffer a respawn just because they accidentally misstood in the wrong place. That being said, it's also worth mentioning I have never been stuck in a game anywhere as much as I have gotten stuck in this game. Like, sure, once in a blue moon you'll run into a game where you get stuck, physically stuck and trapped. But I've never seen a game where the I'm stuck button is just there instead of a console command. So they knew in their game testing that there was something wrong with their programming that made it particularly easy for characters to get stuck. Instead of fixing it, they've just given a cheap solution. Generally, if you leave an area, the game will test to see if where it's spawning you next time you load in is a good space. A lot of times you'll have games that are just kind of constantly testing to see if you're in a safe spot. So this island actually is part of that island. And that's an interesting twist. So it made to just go to a side island to then jump back. Okay. I see part of it. And so it definitely was the right move to investigate by going downward. To see a bridge broken does certainly imply that at some point there was another island there. And that would be a fine place to potentially also end this game, is to say, hey, this world once had a lot more to it. If this game sells well, maybe we'll make a sequel or add DLC, have a season 2 that adds more landmass. Though inherently, if you told me there was twice as much landmass, that would not impress me at all. And if you told me you added another 10,000 plus puzzles to it, I would also not be particularly impressed by that. I would want we've added a story mode and we've added 1,000 new, more difficult puzzles, expert level puzzles, if you want to describe them as that way. That's one we had already done. It almost feels like maybe they should unlock a race sequence where you would run through invisible arches from the tops of areas to the bottoms of areas. I'd still be very interested to see a speedrunner try and play some amount of percentage of completion on this game. But yeah, generally puzzle games do not encourage speedrunners, and games that are going to take hours and hours to play, even in a speedrun, are not as interesting to most speedrunners and most viewers of speedruns. If your entire speedrun takes more than 3 or 4 hours, you're never going to be able to show that speedrun at a Games Done Quick event. Even if it took more than a couple hours, it's only going to be shown off potentially in the middle of the night. So yeah, that limits your potential pool of speedrunners if they know that their speedruns would be limited to being uploaded to YouTube or something on their own personal channels, which aren't going to get a ton of views. Nobody's going to look at a 60-hour video or part. Well, I can speak from my own experience. Nobody wants to watch a 3-hour video that's episode 25 of a series, with each episode being 3 hours long. Not nobody, but not a lot of people. So I guess I'm just gonna have to go back up now. But this is tempting me too much, so I'm gonna just walk here and see what happens. Nothing. Okay. Good to know. If there's more of a mystery to that. I'm not sure what it is. And even the high jump doesn't get me high enough. I don't want to come this way. I want to actually fall down here. This is where we would have landed. Look around. I would tend to believe. It's funny, we're still missing a logic cube too. Yeah, I would tend to believe that the last of the puzzles are up there at the top area. That I just missed a small section. Did I solve the puzzle on that one? Yeah, if it's gold like this, I've already solved it. So we're looking for blue lines. Wow, there's a whole puzzle. Well, that at least puts me in a different place. Okay. What can we do? Guess that gets us to that spot. Gets us to that spot. And then lets me move that to that spot. So we can move these around. Don't need to do anything more. That does tell me there's a decent chance that there's even more puzzles. But yeah, that should be very believable. Music every now and then does this little monkey whopping sound. In the past we've heard birds chirping, birds flying around. Certainly would give some life to this world. Might confuse the puzzles a little bit, but probably not too much. Already solved that one. One second. I'm gonna mute myself and cough. If I can't find the puzzles here, the next step would be to fly around in circles around the edges of the world and see if maybe there's something hidden in an outcropping possibly something on the other side of that wall. My assumption, since I spent very little time in this area, is that there could be something in here. Might even just be a hidden arc in here. But then if I'm close to one puzzle, I would assume that there isn't just another one right next to it. That certainly could be a wrong assumption. And certainly these games could get very monotonous if you were just having to walk every single square inch of a spot looking for visible arcs, looking for puzzles. This is kind of a surprisingly empty area. Let's see if maybe there's something up on the edges of the walls. You would expect there to be something here. Did I not investigate this edge here well enough? Try to approach all of this from every single angle. I don't feel like I should be struggling this much to find the last leitmotif and the last hidden archway. Assuming these really are the last. Okay. So, move here, I guess, is to glide downwards. Let's see if we find anything interesting. That was the last hidden archway, for the bonus at least. So, yeah, this little waterfall section, I bet I just never jumped down the waterfall, so it definitely gives me a direction to look as far as where the last leitmotif might also be. So let's follow that down. Looking down here, doesn't feel like there's anything here. They become pretty sheer drop-offs. guess we'll investigate this. See a light motif here. That's just a drop downward. One would assume it is either really small or it is really hidden. Inside a building might be the most logical assumption there. They're inside a building or at a very narrow angle. Of course, I might be just missing the obvious. Still getting a lot of, I don't know if I really want to call it micro-stuttering or just jankiness, in which the character's feet feels like they are colliding in a non-smooth fashion with the floor beneath them. I probably would lean more towards calling it micro-stuttering, actually. And this is definitely the kind of game where it would make sense to, I guess I'll keep an eye upward, it would make sense to really have it cranked up to performance mode. Like, you know you're only going to miss out on a small bit of experience of visuals. The general puzzles are going to look just about the same and the experience is going to be just about the same. There's two waterfalls. Yeah. Every time I pan here, feels like it's taking longer. What if we were to turn this to medium? Just see how that looks. Still looks fine. Still a little herky-jerky with the mouse. And see, I don't know how much of that is the mouse at all. So, what if I was to turn this down to very low? Like, theoretically, this should look awful. Still looks fine. Still kind of herky-jerky, though, in fairness. This might be a great way to cheat at this game a little bit by I already solved this one. I think it would be turning blue. I was getting a little close to it if this was the one to solve. But yeah, this might be a way of cheating, reducing the foliage in the game. If you want to call it cheating. Might very well just be a benefit of playing with a less powerful graphics card too. There's a lot of windows, so I should look through every single window and archway and see if I am seeing potentially the beginnings of a pattern. I'm still expecting it to be blue. Or bluish. This is a great example, I think, too, of just misunderstanding what you should do with something like the Unreal Engine. Just because you can doesn't mean you should have massive amounts of foliage and visual effects in your game, particularly if your game is a puzzle game or is supposed to be a high action game and is going to crawl. It's not like game developers actually are getting kickbacks from, well, maybe they are getting some influence from video card designers and sellers, but yeah, they shouldn't just constantly try and push players to have to, PC players in particular, to have to buy an upgrade. It's still very much a apples to oranges comparison between a console and the PC setup anyways. It's getting closer that you could actually compare the two, but yeah, at the moment it's still a case where a good $2,000 PC is going to beat the socks off of a $500 console, and frankly even a $500 gaming PC has a decent chance of outshining in some aspects, if not all. Windows. We are looking for windows. It's a little bit smoother now. Yeah. And inherently, I think gamers have realized they want faster frame rates more than they want higher resolutions. So that is almost certainly the next evolution in gaming, is that you're just going to have a 120, or probably 120 will become a standard more than 144 hertz. But there's also going to be a level there in which 144 hertz is going to be, I think, more of an adaptive frame rate. It's still probably going to be a while. That a lot of time will just be spent getting games to be locked at a consistent 60 frames per second with no micro stuttering, which is notoriously an issue if you follow DF Retro's beliefs, and just stuttering and locking up in general, which I honestly couldn't even do justice to describing the difference between stuttering and micro stuttering, other than, I guess, if a stutter takes a certain amount of time, more than a certain amount of milliseconds, microseconds, it would be considered a stutter, not just a micro stutter. one of the things about the Unreal Engine that tends to cause micro-stuttering is giant areas like this. We have streaming loading happening. As you approach one area, it loads in more of the map data, more of the visual aspects. Well, this sucks. Not sure what to do here. Let's fly the other way, I guess. Let's see if maybe we can see something. But I think I may have to just give up. It's just not valid use of my time to wander around looking for one leitmotif, which I find that one leitmotif and then it's going to tell me, there's a decent chance it's going to tell me that there's more. We've been all over these islands. There are some ledges I could stand. Definitely doesn't feel like there's enough room. On most of these areas for there to be one extra leitmotif. Still feels like this should be something. Yeah, that's one we did. I suppose it inherently could be hidden behind just about anything. But that's like two puzzles right next to each other, too. Well, that was pure luck. Just a corner I'd never turned around. And that probably is a great example of just what is going to be the issue later on. Now we are left with the absolute worst situation in that it says there's one puzzle left. Well, before we leave that corner, let's just make sure there wasn't a puzzle in this corner somewhere. Or a hidden arc. My suspicion here would be that I somehow missed a puzzle. But without the all-seeing monolith, potentially, I don't even know if it really is going to do this, without something potentially mapping out where the puzzles are. This could take way too much time. Whoops. Jump around, look around a little bit. This area is big enough for there to be more than just the arch. I guess the move here is to look for a ring. I don't think it's a ring. Look around corners. That makes a lot of sense. Definitely are lessons to be learned here that I didn't learn as far as looking around corners and such. And if it's golden on the side, we pretty much should assume we already solved the puzzle. Though weirdly, this one is not golden on the side. And maybe that is a level of where the graphics are failing us. For the most part, turning the graphics down seems to have not really fixed the stuttering, in fairness, and just auto-detect back to whatever it thinks. Ultra quality on some of the shading and rendering. And mostly seems like it's just doing more shadows and more lighting. And weirdly, a lot of that tends to just make the whole image feel darker. So if you want a nice bright game, lowering the graphics also might be an option. I'm a little surprised they didn't bother to put a day-night cycle in this game, although that would really make it difficult to find a lot of stuff if there was a night cycle in the game. I'm just gonna look around every single column just to make sure. I seriously doubt there could have been a puzzle on those columns, but just to be certain. That would be another example of just the conflict you run into between making an MMO and making a puzzle game. MMO screams, yes, day-night cycle. Puzzle game says, no, don't do that. Is just a high chance that I'm gonna end up leaving it, and there's a high chance I'll just never bother to do 100% of all the enclaves. It would be better content, certainly, to move on and do time trials and new things instead. If it was behind a waterfall, that would certainly be a new thing. Jump back to where I started. I think I can from that one. Okay, I'm gonna admit defeat, or semi-admit defeat here. I'm gonna walk up to the top where the teleport is that would send us back. And we'll jump on that. If, for some crazy reason, there's a single puzzle there, then we'll solve that single puzzle if we can. And that will be that. If not, we will move on. Even a logic cube would be really hard to be this hidden. Yeah, I suppose around any corner could have simply not paid enough attention. This is, I guess, where the bridge was broken. Although weirdly, it is a kind of odd place. Because nowhere else in the game have you seen tops of buildings lead to makeshift broken bridges. Everything we've seen, at least in the original architecture, seems intentional from the original creations. This doesn't feel like a world where a society would have had to make do and fix bridges. If there's been a broken bridge, it's felt like it was always broken and that it was intentionally always broken to be artistic. Nothing sneaky on the statue. Yeah, wherever this puzzle is, I would have had to have walked past it like dozens of times. Just paid it no attention. Unless it was hidden deep inside a building through a window. I suppose that is believable. This is where we didn't... That was the last place we kind of looked. That's been solved. You could make a general assumption that there's some visual glitching there. If this is the area where I wasn't being particularly thorough, there's a decent chance that there is something more. There certainly are points here. I feel like they could be something more. Of course, there's also just sometimes purple flowers through windows that just as easily look like something. Could it be that there was a puzzle under a fallen column like that? Yeah. It's possible. Definitely believable. Are there any other fallen columns? Or just in general, a place where you'd have to crouch down? If it was one of these rings, it'd be very, very believable that I just walked past the ring multiple times, thinking it was already solved. bumped the wrong button on my mouse. I have a program that will open a magnifying app that's built into Windows. If I hit a special button on the sides of my mouse, another button that will close it. It's very helpful because I'm further away than I should be from my TV/monitors. It's very helpful to be able to read like websites and text on the screen. But it does not really work in full screen apps such as games. Of course, we have the right click to zoom in built-in feature. Getting to the tops of these locations feels like there always should be something there. I mentioned in a previous episode how I never really appreciated the climbing aspects of Breath of the Wild. One of the other aspects of Breath of the Wild to make a comparison to, I suppose, here would be the fact that there are, I believe they're called Kokoro seeds in Breath of the Wild, 300 of them to collect by doing different things, and you're told very much at the beginning of the game not to bother with them because you're not going to get any reward. You do get a golden poop item as a reward, if you want to call that a reward, if you collect them all. But yeah, I can't help but feel like 10,000 plus puzzles feels a lot like the time wasting elements of the Kokoro seeds. Although I would say the comparison is still probably worse for these 10,000 puzzles, because these 10,000 puzzles are... I'm seeing a lot of visual glitching now because the visuals are so high. I think it probably would make sense to, at the very least, just go to high and apply a preset standard. That's still showing a lot of visual flickering. I think we're probably approaching a point where the game is going to lock up and crash, and hopefully it's not going to lock up and crash my entire computer with it, and hopefully it is the game that's causing this and not something else. I guess it does look like you could jump on all of these columns. Maybe there's some secret mystery as to why you would jump on all of the columns. Just not seeing anything though. If there is one more puzzle hidden in this area, it is hidden so exceptionally well. Just way more than any puzzles to a fault. Well, we gave it a decent try. I do believe this is flinging us back to where we started. Yep. And this area was fairly full of trials and things. Great view from up here. So, undeclared clue tells me at least myopia arrows are a whole new thing. Point to all the closest cells of opposite color. So we know that much is true. Which then also means that is white, that is white, and that is white. Okay. So that being dark is not true. That being white is not known for certain. Point to all the closest cells of the opposite color. Why does it say -1 then? Okay. I don't know what they mean by closest then. Let's see. You can't click on this rule. So we don't know that that's not true. Do know that that's... So from what I can gather from this, is it's saying that if it doesn't see if it's white and it doesn't see a black for the first two, then it won't have an arrow. But if it is white or black, and it points here, then for some reason these are also white. I'm confused. That much seems to be true. That much. I'm very confused as to what the logic here is. All the closest cells of the opposite color. They don't have a number on them. It feels like they should have a number on them. So apparently, maybe 3 arrows means 3. Maybe 2 arrows means 2. Now it's adding, connect all the light cells. is true. Well, we know something like that is true. Let's take a foresight. Okay. So inherently, they must be the same distance. This is what I'm suspecting is the case. Maybe I should have done these first, because this definitely seems like this is more educational. So equal distance. Oh no, it's relative distance. It's saying that the closest black in the 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, are here and here, equal distance. Okay, that makes more sense. So inherently, then this black means those have to be white. Means those have to be white. Means 1, 2. That has to be 1. That has to be white. Well, so it jumps over edges. Apparently it does. I was not expecting that. So if this is 1, 2, it has to be like that, like that. And so the majority of this is going to be information from these points. No, this one is pointing to this, so we know that has to be dark. Those can all be light. That has to be dark. I don't understand why that wouldn't have worked, though. Because this has to be the closest one. And that would be further away than that would be. And they're calling that an enclave, too. We have now unlocked logic grids with myopia patterns, which, okay. Some of this will play out just fine. And then a lot of this, exactly one symbol per dark area, which means this has to be white. I think. Well, not really. This could be. If that is that, then that, and that, and that, and that all have to be like that. If that is that, then three, 1, 2, 3. Two. This isn't really that difficult. It kind of just fills in itself. A little grindy, perhaps, but definitely not difficult. Do we have to connect all dark cells? Yes, we do. Totally run out of things to say at this point. Okay, if this is dark, this has to be dark. This has to be white. This has to be dark. And that has to be white. Are we connecting all dark things? Yes, we are. Best case scenario had to be like that. That and that have to be dark. That has to be white. That could be white and that could be white. But then that violates that, so then that has to be dark. That has to be dark. We have no clue about that one. This is dark. Then this is white and this is white. Nearsighted. great view from up here. Starts here. Visual glitching still happening. And yeah, there's a whole temple of things. There's a matchbox. There's the other part of that matchbox. How can we hit that? How can we hit that? Well, actually that's not the same matchbox, is it? Alright, well, forget that then. Snake in the grass. It won't bite much, it says. Continue to get the sky drops if we can. There we go. That symbol is not the same as that symbol. That symbol is the same as that symbol. Obviously, though, there's all kinds of areas in this open world like this, though, where we could do a lot. We want to do leaves in the wind next, which I believe is right here. So if I wanted to do a whole bunch of logic grids, I could do this. But to connect all dark cells, which apparently I'm making too much of an assumption here. If we can't make certain patterns, then kind of have to do certain things. It also could be that. Which may mean we only know that much. Now that much is true. And then you could potentially just connect it that way. And then you could just flood the rest of it with white cells. You could also scoop down to this spot, or scoop down to this spot, or scoop down to this spot. Could you ever scoop down to this spot, though? I don't think so. Could you come down here and do that? Could you ever scoop up to the spot? No. Okay. I think that same logic probably applies here. This could go down here. Go there. Couldn't really go there. They could go down there. And then there, down there, and there. Could it ever possibly be here? No. Could it ever be in this corner? Yes. Could it be any of those? No. Avoid snake traps. One more thing can't be true. That, for some reason, that looked like that was the right answer, but I'm not 100% sure why. Well, I guess perhaps because regardless of where else you put another black spot, it's going to create that pattern. I wish this was more of a system that pushed you along. In such a way that you knew you had to keep on solving puzzles, or at least it would heavily encourage you to keep on solving puzzles. If I put one here, then anywhere, if I put a black here, and then a black here, that would make that pattern. So that won't work, and that won't work. But the fact that you get kicked out and then have to walk, and possibly have to actively maneuver yourself just to be closer to the puzzles. No, that much is true. And then it could be dark here, and light here. Could be dark here and then light here. I think the problem here is going to be getting through. How can we connect? It's got to be something like that. But then if we did something like that, this can't connect, and so we'd have to go there to avoid making the shape. This two would have to be here, or it's something like that. And if it was something like that, then this can't connect, and this can't connect, and so it has to be there. Now let's eliminate all of that for the moment and see what the next step here is. was going straight up and then did that pattern, that wouldn't work. My general assumption is it has to be something like that. You know, that much is true. That much is true, and that much is true. Is it possible that we don't know for certain? Could you have come up here and formed a pattern like that? I don't think so. So this is my best guess. Let's see what we know what's wrong here. We don't know that that is true. Okay. Then does that mean we know that much is true? Apparently not. We don't know that that much is true. Interesting. So then that means I would have to assume a lot more. I also don't know that that much is true. And that I guess has to be dark. That'll get us 2. That and that I guess has to be dark, and that has to be dark. Snake 2x2. That one particular feels like that's a higher level challenge, and I do question if this isn't going to go that route over and over again. And what would really suck is to get halfway through all of this and then decide to leave and not see it all the way through. But that's the only thing you really could do as far as if you're running out of foresights. I'm utterly lost here. Like, to me, it seems like you could do this, you could do this, and you could do this. But if you were to do that, I guess you have to do something like that. Something like that. Is that the guaranteed spot of this? No. Don't think it is. So that's exactly 0, and that would be a general guess as to what would have to happen. So let's see foresight. Foresight tells us we only know that much. So 2 more. This is getting more complicated. I think we pretty much know how this is gonna go. So what are 2 more things that we do know? Don't apparently know that, and we don't apparently know that. What else could we know? Yeah. By not understanding the concept before, I am now not understanding the next concept. That could be it, but I doubt it. This could be it, but I doubt it. You know it's not that. No, it's not that. So here we wait just for the next foresight. Jeez, do we not know anything then? Does this have to kind of go in that direction? I guess it kind of does. But if that is the case, then there's something more we don't know. We don't know that that is true. We don't know that that is true. Okay, that gives us 2. Snake corners. Please explain. Or don't. Apparently the game is refusing to open an explanation for that. But the game is not locked up to any further extent than that. Interesting. So that and that means that and that goes that way. Does that inherently stop that from being black? Apparently so. there a possibility of a black line going in between either of these sides? Yes. Is there a possibility that two black lines would go through this? No. So that tells us something. Just went down here. Guess the question is there specific spots that just can't be black? This connected here, this connected here. Apparently, we can make some kind of assumption there, which I'm not sure I really understand what the assumption is. Why couldn't you have gone all the way down here, made a black line, going all the way here, and done that? Well, because if you went all the way down and made a black line, then you would always be forming this shape, wouldn't you? So you have to split it, and since two can't be there, I now understand. So that means that, and that, and that, and that, and that are all true. Have to connect all dark ones. I guess we don't know for certain that it goes here, because it's possible it just goes down here and then comes back up here. And that'll bring up an explanation. That weirdly felt like that was a possibility that it would work that way, but it didn't inherently have to work that way. But apparently I am wrong. So if we do that, that's fine. If we did that, that's fine. If we did that, that'd be fine. That way could work. That way could work. Even that way could work. Probably say that these corners, though, can't work. Okay. Suspect some things are true here. Okay, we're one short. We're gonna assume everything we're looking at right now is true. Which, yeah, I suppose there is a possibility of that. This going down here could work if this was white. It could go up here, or it could go down here. Either way would make the opposite one impossible. So we don't even know for certain about that one. We don't know for certain about that one. So we should just go ahead and get rid of everything and I guess make some assumptions here. Again, I don't fully think I understand that. But to me, it feels like there would have been a weird way in which that would have worked. This is pretty obvious as far as what's going on. Okay. If we did that and then interconnected that, that still probably would work. So what's the next evolution of this thought? Is it perhaps just the nature that everything has to be that way? That's a lot of assumptions to make. I'm only going to have one foresight. Lean towards suspecting something else, but kind of know some things here. I guess not quite enough, because you could branch down this way and connect to that. Then connect there. Or you could branch here. And then branch up here. Nope, that won't work. So I think that does tell me. Okay. So then I would assume that may be wrong at that point. No. Then that. Correct? I think it is. Then that weirdly puts me in a 1 spot. Oh. Just trying to echo the pattern, even though I'm not fully following the logic. Let's see. We've got to connect all the dark ones. Okay. If we were to do that, that immediately creates a problem. If we were to do that, that immediately creates a problem. To do that, that creates a problem. And if we were to do that, it wouldn't. Yeah, that still creates a problem too. So at some point this has to start curving away. And it has to attach in some way. Can we take anything else for certain? Or are we just gonna have to make a bunch of guesses? Yeah, that was a mistake. What can we be certain of? If we were to do this, that's not gonna work. So it seems to me like could do that. But don't think there's ever going to be a scenario where we can do that. Yeah, that's not going to work. Oh, well, we know, I guess, you have to connect all the dark ones. Man, that was a useless hint. So if that was dark and that was dark, is there any way that would work? No. So we know that much is white. This was dark and this was dark. Could that be white? Yes. And like here and here, there could possibly be a dark piece. Yeah, clearly I'm missing something that is core to the concept here. And this is just a level 3 difficulty puzzle. Yeah, as we're approaching the end of this game, we're doing more in the overworld, which may just prove itself. So there's something about that corner. Oh, because it would have made the shape. Yeah. Surprised I made it this far, really. Same concept as before. What is different this time? Seems like it would have to be the exact same thing. Either it's gonna go up here, it's gonna go up here. Can't do both. Could connect over here, but then if it did connect over here, it would have to connect over here. Or it'd have to connect over here. Honestly, it kind of feels like it has to connect here to do this. That can't be true. What if it was to come back on itself like that? Nope, that's not gonna work. Interesting. Like, you can get around that pretty easily. You can get to this point pretty easily. But then I have no idea what the trick here is, but seems to me like it's quite the heavy trick. If we were to do that, so we don't know for certain that that is that. All right. Do we know for certain that that is that? Oh, there's a whole trick to this, isn't there? There's no way this one connects. Something else is wrong. Is there possibly some other way? And I guess that does connect at that point. So I could go straight up. Could this go straight down? No. Do we know those are filled in that way? Yes. If this was filled in this way, would that be a problem? So we don't know about those. Is this white? Don't know for certain. Apparently this is wrong. Why is that wrong? I have no idea. Apparently that is wrong. We know that is black. No, that much is black or that much is white. So if we were to start to try and go this way and this way, that would create a problem. Is there any scenario where that wouldn't be a problem? No. So that is white. Still getting something extra. Is it possible that that would work? That would work. No. Is it possible that this would be black? Is it possible that this wouldn't work? No? Ah. Pretty tough. Pretty tough. Snake in the grass trial. Another Mariblis. Notice it has been a long time since we've unlocked a Mariblis that would lead to a hint for a mystery. There's still a ton of those. Could I possibly even do another sky block or sky drop? I'm still confusing it with the not in 60 seconds to get a combo. And here's one of these. Let's see. And yeah, that's not going to be particularly more difficult. See if we can get rid of the marker now. There's all kinds of puzzles everywhere, but we've already gone 3 hours. These series, pretty much all the series I cover, get longer the deeper I get into them, but when you're starting off at 2.5 hours because you know the game is going to be a lot, then you know it's only going to get worse. Leaves in the Wind looks like it's likely going to be as big and possibly difficult as the 2 previous enclaves in this area. We've actually done quite a few trials in as far as side quests in this area. There's still plenty of trials and side quests in the other areas, and just plenty of games overall. In a lot of ways, it probably makes a lot of sense to just go find lore fragments in the other areas, if that's what we were going to focus on next. Although I think the all-seeing monolith maybe makes more sense, because we need to figure out if that shows us where things are. Although we already know where pillars of insight are, don't we? Do we? Is there a pillar of insights? Yes. So yeah, it would make a lot of sense to just take what we already have on the map and do that. I want to upgrade, if I can possibly do it right now, to something, because I'm probably going to exit out of the game, and I feel like the game is going to maybe penalize me there. Although, if my theory is correct and it subtracts whatever you get as far as rewards from mastering and leveling up, and from doing the quests, then this would be the only amount that I would lose, this 500 sparks. Do I have something that is exactly 2,500? Yes, I do. Which, yeah. The only other option would have been that. Shrinking bubble now for the pentads. As far as where did it go? This is weird. Shifting mosaics. They must have known that there are so few of them in the game. We are at a very high level already as far as shifting mosaics, and that we're at the enthusiast title. Apparently I'm a supreme master of logic grids, which is probably not a good phrase to use. Master in general, not a good phrase to use these days for being politically correct. Supreme, probably not a good one to use when using the phrase master too. I suspect puzzle types are not going to ever expand anymore. So this section is full. We have, I guess, 2 more gimmicks for logic grids that we have yet to see. And doing the pillars of insights certainly would fill in the insights. Which, yeah. One of these was the one that I actually wanted to read. When making a snake, if 2 ends of the snake are already determined, the snake then tiles and corners must extend in both directions. Okay. So there's still a decent amount of insights, still a ton of lore. I definitely don't think we're going to come back and reread all of this. Some of this is definitely out of order too, so when we start trying to find lore fragments, it's going to probably not matter too much, but it's still going to kind of suck that you're not getting the story. You could have fixed that pretty easily by simply having each point that where a lore fragment could be picked up just automatically unlock the next piece of the lore, instead of specifically tying each lore to a specific location. And yeah, we got one new customization thing, but I have really no interest at all in messing with it. Let's see if we can get rid of the ridiculous hair at least. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and keep on watching. Thanks.